Vlad III, also called Vlad the Impaler, was a prince of Wallachia, infamous for his brutality in battle and the gruesome punishments he inflicted on his enemies. In 1897, writer Bram Stoker published the novel Dracula, a classic tale about a vampire named Count Dracula who feeds on human blood by hunting and killing his victims in the dead of the night. The Count Dracula in the book, which contemporary critics described as the most blood-curdling novel of the century, was Stoker's own creation. However, many believe that the bloodthirsty villain was partly inspired by Vlad the Impaler, who was the terrifying ruler of Wallachia back in the mid-1400s. Vlad III earned his fearsome nickname for impaling more than 20,000 people and killing as many as 60,000 others during his bloody reign of terror. It was also said that he dined amongst his impaled enemies and that he dipped his bread in their blood. Because the historical record is often spotty when it comes to the story of Vlad the Impaler, we know only that he was born between 1428 and 1431 during a time of unrest in Wallachia. His mother, the queen, came from a Moldovan royal family and his father was known as Vlad Dracula. The surname translates to dragon and was given to Vlad II after his induction into a Christian crusading order known as the Order of the Dragon. Young Vlad also had two brothers, Mircea and Radu. Due to Walachia's proximity to the warring factions of Christian-ruled Europe and the Muslim-ruled Ottoman Empire, Dracula's territory was the site of constant turmoil. In 1442, the Ottomans called for a diplomatic meeting and invited Vlad Dracula. And he saw an opportunity to educate his youngest sons in the art of diplomacy, so he brought Vlad III and Radu with him. However, Dracula and his two sons were captured and held hostage by the Ottoman diplomats instead. And they told him that he would be released, but that he had to leave his sons behind. Dracula, believing that it was the safest option for his family, agreed. Fortunately for Vlad III and his brother, during their time as hostages, the two princes received lessons in science, philosophy, as well as the art of war. However, things were much worse at home as a coup orchestrated by local warlords known as the Boyar overthrew Dracula. And in 1447, he was killed in the swamps behind his home while his oldest son was tortured, blinded, and buried alive. Vlad III was freed soon after his family's death, and it was during this time that he started to use the name Vlad Dracula, meaning son of the dragon. And this was supposedly the starting point for when the proverbial shit hit the fan. Because when he returned to Wallachia, he had transformed into a violent ruler, soon earning his nickname Vlad the Impaler in disturbing fashion.
My name is Dracula, son of the devil.
So in 1448, Vlad returns to Wallachia to take back the throne from Vladislav II, the man who replaced his father. He succeeded, but after just a few months, the deposed Vladislav returned and took back the throne. But in 1456, Vlad returned with an army as well as support from Hungary and managed to take back the throne from Vladislav a second time. Legend has it that Vlad personally beheaded Vladislav on the battlefield. And once he was back on his father's throne again, his reign of terror truly began. Some historians believe that his family's horrific deaths were what turned Vlad III into Vlad Tepes, the original Romanian for Vlad the Impaler. Some accounts also stated that Vlad was subjected to beatings while he was under the Ottomans and that this could have been where he learned the tradition of impaling his enemies. However, soon after he took the throne back, he had enemies of his own to deal with, as some in Wallachia considered his father to be the better leader, which caused uprisings in the villages across the region. And Vlad knew that he had to assert his dominance over the people. So he decided to host a banquet and to invite his opposition. It didn't take long before the festivities turned bloody. as Vlad's guests were stabbed to death and their still twitching bodies were impaled on spikes.
Let this be a warning to all of our enemies. I'll bend my knee for no one.
From there, Vlad's reputation only continued to grow as he would defend his throne and defeat his enemies time and time again with the most grisliest methods imaginable. And as the years went on, Vlad the Impaler was an undeniably brutal ruler. Nevertheless, much of Christian Europe supported his strong, if macabre, defense of Wallachia from various incursions from Muslim Ottoman forces. In fact, even the Pope, Pius II, expressed admiration for the violent ruler's military feats, because a threat to Europe was deemed a threat to Christendom, and therefore to the Pope. Although Vlad III brought stability and protection to a vulnerable region, he still seemed to relish his own brutality. And during one of his successful campaigns against the Ottoman Turks in 1462, he wrote the following to one of his allies. I have killed peasants, men and women, old and young, who lived at Oblasica and Novoselo where the Danube flows into the sea. We killed 23,884 Turks without counting those whom we burnt in homes or the Turks whose heads were cut by our soldiers. Thus, Your Highness, you must know that I have broken the peace. The Turks gave him the nickname Kaziklu Bey, meaning impaling prince. Impalement was no doubt Vlad's preferred murder method of choice. Now, during impalement, a wooden or metal pole will be jabbed through the body starting either in the rectum or vagina, and would then slowly pierce through the body until it came out the victim's mouth, shoulders, or neck. And sometimes the pole was rounded, meaning that it would go through the victim's body without puncturing any internal organs, thereby prolonging the victim's torture. And in these particularly gruesome cases, it would take hours or even days for the victims to finally die, often on public display for everyone to watch. That is fucking rough. In one case, he impaled the Saxon merchants who were allied with the Boyars, who, as mentioned earlier, killed his family. Vlad would use this torturous method to punish and kill anyone who displeased or threatened him, although it wasn't the only way he dispensed his cruelty. At one point, he had the turbans of the Ottoman Diplomats nailed into their skulls because they declined to remove them for religious reasons.
And you will never have to remove your hats again.
Vlad the Impaler's appetite for violence also often surpassed the bloodlust of his enemies. Sultan Mehmed II, notorious for his own atrocities, was flummoxed after seeing the decaying corpses of about 23,000 of his own men lined up on stakes for miles around the capital of Târgoviște when he invaded Wallachia in 1462. The Sultan retreated the next day. Stories like this, as well as many contemporary accounts, claim that Vlad the Impaler killed 60,000 people during his reign, and impaled more than 23,000 of them. But it's difficult to know for sure how many people he truly slaughtered. His bloody reign of terror ended in 1462 when the Ottomans had launched a campaign to replace Vlad with his brother Radu. Vlad went to the Hungarians thinking that they'd help him to solidify his hold on the throne, but not wanting to risk a war with the Ottomans, the Hungarians imprisoned him instead. Almost nothing is known about Vlad's imprisonment, but in 1476 he was released and married Jasina Szilágyi, a relative of the Hungarian king Matthias Corvinus, who made an arrangement with Vlad to restore him to his throne after Radu had been removed. However, Vlad died in battle alongside the Hungarians, who were now ironically at war with the Ottomans later that same year. According to legend, Vlad the Impaler was beheaded in battle and his head was paraded back to Constantinople and placed in the hands of his enemy, Sultan Mehmed II, to be displayed over the city's gates. And his remains have never been found. Although Count Dracula and Vlad the Impaler share a few similarities in that they shared a name and both lived in a towering castle in Eastern Europe, as well as having a taste for blood, there are significant differences between them. For one, Stoker's Dracula resides in Transylvania, while Vlad the Impaler never lived there. And as terrifying as Vlad the Impaler was, there's no hard evidence to suggest that he actually drank blood. And while it may be difficult to sometimes distinguish fact from fiction about the real Dracula, there is enough evidence to show that Vlad the Impaler committed some of the most chilling atrocities, not just during his era, but any era in human history.
I have already died, and I will never drink wine.